Morning. Morning. Morning, folks. Good morning. Morning, Robert. Ian. Morning, Mary. Lenny. Lorraine. Morning, Mr. Milligan. I'll be giving you a wee mention halfway through this. Okie dokie. Joan, Stephen, another Stephen. Morning, Neil. Morning, Barbara. Where are we? 56, we're climbing nice. Hi, Alison. You queening again the day while listening to me. Morning, Tina, Lenny, Bob. 72, we're getting there. Morning, John. Morning, Quentin. Morning, Doug. Morning, Neil. Alistair. Kate. Stuart. Neil again. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, Jim. Morning, Stephen. Good morning, Mandy. How are you? Stuart. Right, that's us up over the 100 mark, so let's get this broadcast underway. It's INDYTRUCK DAVY in the truck, coming to you today from a lay-by on the A96 just outside Elgin. Alright, where it is quite a nice day, got my specs on, and it is 11 degrees, no bad at all. Alright, so that's the weather forecast for the A96 just outside Elgin. If you want to know what the weather's like where you are, look at the bloody windy. Good morning, Julie. Always somebody got to get a PM in there. Right, so let's get this broadcast on the way. We'll start with some COVID figures. Now, I've rejigged the way I do this. Alright, so on the COVID figures, new cases were at 4,266, but as testing is being run down, it's hard to be accurate on new infections. Alright, there are currently 2,148 people in hospital with COVID, and of which 21 people are in the intensive care. There was no news on deaths reported Sunday to Monday, but the register offices are closed. Alright, now last week the daily death toll was 24 people a day, and the Office for National Statistics tells us that 1 in 13 Scots, or 7.5% of the population, has the virus currently. Okay, now I'm not going to bother any more with the vaccination figures. If you want to see the vaccination figures, jump onto the tracker. Use your search engine, just type in COVID tracker, and that will give you the information you require. Okay, so let's move on and review some of the news. Right, Monday started with a few themes in the rags. Rishi Sunak's tax affairs and his status as a US citizen as the main theme in the rags, right? The old jelly beans experience of COVID is also on the front pages of the right-wing loony rags. And the French presidential election makes the broadsheets. Okay, so on Sunak, his wife's agreed to pay, we spoke about this yesterday, his wife's agreed to pay full taxes on her earnings here in the UK, but at the same time, Sunak is a green card holder for America, meaning a permanent resident. He has to pay his tax liabilities to the Yanks before he starts paying his tax liabilities elsewhere. So Sunak's referred himself to Lord Geitz, the Standards Commissioner, or Bojo's back pocket dummy, and no doubt he'll be given a Queen Bill of Health. Alright, now on the Queen and her experience with COVID, she was virtually opening an area of a hospital and spoke to some of the patients about her experience with COVID, said it left her exhausted. Alright, the French presidential elections, Macron wins the first round, and there'll be a run-off in 2 weeks' time as they've whittled the candidates down to two, and that's Macron and the right-wing nutjob Marie Le Pen. Okie dokie, so they'll have a run-off in 2 weeks to see who will become the next president of France. Hopefully it'll be Macron, because for all he's a bit of a nutjob, Le Pen, I really don't fancy an extreme right-winger in charge of France. Alright. Okay. Right. What else we got? And the idiots in Westminster say they will sanction Russian generals over the war in Ukraine. But hey, as if the Russian generals give a damn. Alright. Right, moving on. Monday sees state pensions and benefits rise by 1.3%, but the rise is wiped out with interest rates and inflation rates going through the roof. So inflation's about 6%, and it's expected to get to about 8.69 by the end of the year. 3.1% on pensions and 3.1% in benefits gobbled up right away just by the increase in energy costs. Now, Sarah and I have been monitoring our energy use over the last few days. Now, at the financial crash, I decided to get my standard meter taken out to put on a prepaid meter, because Davey can afford the extra £2.50 a week to get control of his energy uses. So David stuck 60 quid into his meter on Saturday, and as of this morning there's £22 left. Wow, 60 quid will normally do me a couple of weeks, but Davey stuck 60 quid in his meter on Saturday afternoon. And Sarah had a look at the meter this morning, £22.86. Jesus Christ. So that would be Saturday evening, Sunday and Monday. Swallowed £38. That's what I used in the electricity. There's nothing on in my house but the lights, the computer and the fridge. Wow. Oh, the heating kicks in twice a day. And of course the hot water, when we turn the hot water tap on. But that's a huge amount of money for a couple of days of use of power. Alright, so those on fixed incomes, like those on pensions and those on benefits, this isn't just a heat or eat here. This is people going to die, folks. This isn't funny. And we're coming into the summer. You know, but when the winter kicks in next year, and the energy caps moved again, and we'll get a wee bit to that further into the report, but the energy caps moved again, then I can see an awful lot of people dying next winter. An awful lot of people dying next winter. Alright, so what's really happening is the UK government is killing UK citizens. Last week, with the 4th of April gone by, 1.3 million more UK citizens were shoved into poverty. 500,000 of those are children. So the Scottish Government are trying their best to mitigate the worst excesses of Westminster's choices. Now, benefits here that are controlled by the Scottish Government have went up by 6%, which is the current inflation rate. But as I say, that will be wiped out towards the end of the year, as inflation is expected to get to 9%. And God knows what it will be in things like food inflation. Okay, so not good. So the criminal cabal down that road are setting about killing people. The population demographic is being redressed, if you like. It looks as if they're trying to kill off the elderly. Right, moving on. Monday, a report by the Royal Bank of Scotland says the service sector in Scotland has had a bumper month in March. The sector did well as COVID restrictions are lifted and travel and tourism gears up for the summer ahead. Unfortunately, it was not so good for the manufacturing sector, as increased costs for raw materials and energies and labour costs saw the sector sink and the economy in total contract. Alright, so to give you an idea, February, let's just take the retail sector. In February, the retail sector grew by 6.1%, and in March it contracted back to 3.4%. So people are really starting to tighten their belts as the cost of living crisis kicks in. But remember, folks, the cost of living crisis isn't necessary. These were down to choices of the Westminster government. Brexit didn't need to happen. And of course, they could have capped energy costs. They could have. They chose not to. As I say, the demographics of the population are being redressed, and it looks as if with their COVID strategy and their cost of living crisis, they're killing off the elderly. And I mean that sincerely. When they opened up last summer down there in England, they knew fine well what they were doing. No masks, no nothing, and things going mental. And then with the Omicron BA2 variant in the winter, which really started wiping out elderly citizens again. And up here we're averaging still 24 deaths a day. They're no kids that are dying, folks. These are our parents, people our age, 55 and over. Alright. Right, Monday it's announced that the Battle of Culloden commemorations to return to the site of the battlefield for the first time since the pandemic hit. The commemorations were held online in 2020 and 2021. The commemorations are to remember the falling from the battle which took place on the 16th of April 1746. When forces loyal to Bonnie Prince Charlie took on the English forces led by the Duke of Cumberland, the Jacobite force was defeated and around 1,600 men died that day. 1,500 of them were Jacobites. Now, this is an important commemoration, especially to some of us in the independence movement, and I'm very glad to see that it will be back on the battlefield where a solemn service can be held to commemorate the battle. Okay, right, moving on. Monday, Aberdeenshire Council candidate for the Conservative and Unionist Party has been charged after an incident in Alford, Aberdeenshire. Robbie Whitney, a sitting councillor, is seeking re-election. The 41-year-old and an 18-year-old were both charged with offences relating to an incident in Alford. But I'm afraid details are a wee bit thin the ground. The Conservative Party says they don't comment on live cases. Alright. And moving on, Monday, Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar continues lying to the Scottish public over the council elections. This time he tells voters to vote Labour in the council elections and he'll cut train fares and bus fares. He is of course lying. In order to cut the train fares you have to be in central government because it's just been brought into the hands of the Scottish public. And certain bus services that might be run by councils, a Labour council might be able to reduce them, but not really, because let's face it, the bus tickets are all going up. Why are they going up? Because it costs more to run the bloody bus, it costs more to pay the bloody driver. So Sarwar is full of pish as usual. And Sarwar and Keir Starmer together had a pop at the UK government, the Scottish government, over their stance on nuclear. Starmer tells the Scottish public, along with Sarwar, that Scotland's losing out of millions of pounds in investment and on jobs. But there's a Davy says here. Davy says, if you want to know the real cost of nuclear, I suggest that you pop onto the Two Davies YouTube channel, where my colleague in crime, David Milligan, put out a video yesterday on the cost of nuclear and why we shouldn't have nuclear. Now, I really recommend that all of you jump onto the Two Davies YouTube site and watch this video, because in it, David explains that after the lifespan of a nuclear station, which is normally a power station, which is normally about 40 years, after it's decommissioned, that plot of land's no good for 300 odd years. 300 years worth of uselessness of the land, so that you can have 39 years of filthy power production. Because for thousands of years, the rods have to be stored. That's the rods that power the reactor to generate the heat that makes the electricity. As I say, jump onto the Two Davies YouTube website and watch the video. David explains it really, really well. And that's why we started the Two Davies YouTube channel. So that we can get into depth and get our teeth into this sort of stuff. You know, where nuclear isn't a cheap option, it's a bloody expensive option. It takes 10 years to bring a plant online. It only runs for about 30 or 40 years until the reactors kaput, and then it takes hundreds and hundreds of years for the land to be back to a brownfield site where you can maybe build a couple of factories. And of course the rods. The rods have got to be stored for thousands of years at a great cost to cool them. So nuclear is not a good option. But as I say, please jump onto the Two Davies YouTube channel And there you will find the video that David Milligan put out yesterday. It's worth a watch, it's worth a listen. It's well researched. You know us guys, we do our stuff. Okay, and that's why we've created this new channel. Because apart from doing a live show on a Thursday, once we get up to 1,000 subscribers and YouTube open up all the tools that we require to do these things, then we will also be putting out videos on the how you gonies and the practicalities of certain types of energy and things like that. Like David's probably going to put one out shortly on green and blue hydrogen. Alright, because David's a big fan of the idea of hydrogen. And he knows his stuff. Alright, so the Two Davies YouTube channel, jump on, have a look at why Scotland shouldn't have nuclear energy. Alright? So, Starmer and idiot Sarwar have a go at the Scottish Government because the Scottish Government don't want to pollute our land for hundreds and hundreds of years for very little energy generating capacity when we have huge amounts of renewable resources in tide, offshore wind and onshore wind. And of course hydrogen, because the onshore wind turbines are absolutely ideal for producing green hydrogen. But I'll allow David to explain that to you in the video because that's his gig. Alright. Right, moving on. Monday, 745 jobs to go at Glasgow COVID test lab as the UK government wind up testing for COVID. The Glasgow White House lab to close as UK ends a contract with the Glasgow lab. Ends contract with Glasgow lab. There is hope the Scottish Government will step in and give the lab a contract, but funding is where it might fall flat in its face, alright. Monday also, Ali Harvey Ali is convicted of murdering Sir David Amess. Alright, took the jury 18 minutes to return a verdict of murder and of a terrorism, planning terrorist attacks. But what was interesting about the coverage yesterday was it was enough to make you houk. And I mean houk. I would have hated to have been Sir David Amess's children or his wife, because the BBC really went to town on it, especially on the radio. We actually heard footage from the police. We heard footage of the guy being banged up in the jail. We actually heard the guy's confession, all being played out live on the radio. If I was, I mean, you would be absolutely horrified to have such details out there if you're the guy's family. Absolutely, it was overkill. All they had today was report the verdict. We already know he stabbed the politician, the Conservative politician, 17 odd times. We know everything that went on. We also knew that the guy was hoping that armed police were going to come along and kill him and make him a martyr. Right? Didn't need to go through it all again. The family didn't have to relive the horror. They'd have been in the court, they'd have relived it anyway. Alright. And moving on, Monday, Tory MP Imran Ahmed Khan found guilty of sexual assault against a boy of 15. The assault happened at a party in 2008. Mr. Khan gave the lad gin, got him drunk in other words, and then assaulted him. Right, after his conviction, Mr. Khan was expelled from the Conservative Party. Mr. Khan, a Red Wall Tory MP for Wakefield, has been warned he faces a custodial sentence. Now, if he receives a 12-month sentence or more, he is automatically kicked to the Commons and he loses his seat. If he gets a sentence of less than 12 months, then it's up to his constituents to batter in a recall petition, and 10% of them have to vote to recall him, and then there'll be a by-election triggered. Alright. Labour are shouting that there should be a by-election and he should resign his seat right away, but Mr. Khan's going to appeal his conviction. And this causes an absolute stooshy in the Commons, because MP Crispin Blunt comes to Mr. Khan's defence, saying the conviction was incorrect. Now, Crispin Blunt chairs the Commons cross-party committee on LGBT services and affairs, and because of his stance defending Mr. Khan, the 5 other members of that committee resigned the committee. The Tory party then got a grip of Mr. Blunt, Crispin Blunt, and tell him, take down your tweets and shut up. So Crispin Blunt was put in his place over the conviction of Mr. Khan, and Mr. Khan is no longer a member of the Conservative Party at this point in time. But it's the usual stuff, it's Tory sleaze. It's always Tory sleaze. It's what the Tories do. Which brings us on to the next article I want to talk about. Moving on Monday, and we're back on tax dodgers. This time, Tory Health Minister Sajid Javid, thanks to Robert the Bruce for flagging this up to me. This time, it's Sajid Javid, and the Times reports that Mr. Javid saved $3 million in UK taxes as a non-dom, because he had non-dom status while he was working in the banking sector. All right, and the Times say he was non-dom for 6 years, and he saved £3 million. But according to Joe Monaghan of the Good Law Project, Sajid Javid had non-dom status for between 13 and 17 years and dodged paying tax on millions more pounds. Now, I don't get why this stuff's news. I don't get it. Tax dodging's what Tories do. It's always been what they do. I'll give you a damn good example, one that's out there in the public realm and everybody knows about it and nobody's kicking up a fuss about it, is Jacob Rees-Mogg. Moggy, who was getting information for insider trading about the sanctions coming down the line with the Russians, so that he could get all his money out of the Russian banks. But what's more important, right enough, I mean, even the Russians, the oligarchs, were given the heads up to get their money out of the UK before the sanctions came in. So, hey-ho, Tory corruption is Tory corruption. That's exactly what the Tories do. So, Sajid Javid, and it seems to be that the Asian members of the Tory party, who have risen to some sort of prominence, are being battered in the press. But there's two things we know about Tories. And Tories are white supremacists, and Tories are tax-dodging, entitled elites. Alright, so Bojo surrounding himself with Asian MPs means they're just there like Skittles to get knocked down to take the heat off him. A lot of what's going on at the moment is to take the heat off Bojo. But don't ever forget that the elite in the English establishment are racist, tax-dodging, self-entitled people who believe that they are born into power, patronage and privilege. So why we're getting stories of Tories dodging tax, I have no bloody idea, except for they're trying to keep something else out the press. I haven't found it yet, but no doubt I will. Alright, so, and let's finish off with a wee rap on the Ukraine war and where we are with the Ukraine war. Okay, it would appear that Russia is regrouping. Russia's regrouping for a major offensive in the Donbass region and Luhansk, and it's also speculated, but there's no proof on this, that Russian troops have used a chemical weapon in Mariupol, which is a city in the south. It's a coastal city with access to water, which Putin wants, so you can get more in for the Black Sea, or more access to the Black Sea. Anyway, we're also being told that the Russian soldiers, have been raping and killing Ukrainian women. That's what happens in war, kids. It's no pretty. Especially conscripts and undisciplined soldiers. Something called the bloodlust comes over them. They get full of a bevy. They're 18, 19-year-old. They're nervous. They're frightened. They're jacked up on adrenaline. And that's when these things happen. There are three things that are very common in all wars, and that is murder, looting, and rape. Happened in the Balkans as well. Wasn't it just Muslim men that were being exterminated in that genocide? The real asses and women were being raped and murdered and all.